Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview, sponsored by PSF. Still, my name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening. On this week's show, then we'll be looking back, of course, at the FA Cup game up at Preston on Tuesday night, as it turned out, and ahead to Saturday's trip up to Rotherham. Joining me to look at both of those games, plus much more. Top right, first up, Mr. Tom Walling. How you doing, Tom?
I'm all good. Yeah, pretty positive over after Tuesday overall, I think.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, certainly am, and we certainly do feel positive after considering it was a defeat. Yeah, I think it will be quite a positive show based on what we saw on Tuesday. And I also join us bottom of the screen there is Mr. Mark Newbury. How doing, Mark? You feeling positive?
Can I sit on the fence for a bit?
Yeah, if you want, yeah.
I'll be sitting on the fence, I think so.
Oh, there you go. Mark's going to bring it
down at the start of a new year, but yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, on tonight's show, then we'll look back at that game on Tuesday. As I said, it turned out up at Preston. Obviously, we're all geared up to go there on Saturday. I was in such a buoyant mood, looking forward to that game, and then it got taken away from me, so I didn't actually get to go. But we're able to watch the game at home. We'll have a look back at that. We'll hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. We'll look ahead to Saturday's trip then. To Rotherham as well. Talk a little bit of transfer. I was also going to hear from Karen Hills for the first time in a couple of years because I was at the Charlton Women game on Sunday, so we'll just briefly check in with her as well. Want to hear from you guys, everyone joining us in the chat. Sam's in there first saying good evening, and Mike Salmon returns saying he's been busy travelling, but he's first time back for a while. Good to have you, Mike. John's in there. Stunty Lloyd's in there, is that his nickname? Jason, Dan, Andrew, Joseph, Stuart. Yeah, let us know your thoughts on the performance on Tuesday. It did turn out as a defeat, unfortunately, in the end. But let us know your thoughts on the display. You can talk about the departure of Tayo Eden, who today has moved to Peterborough on undisclosed terms. I think that's the nice way of saying on a free. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on his departure. Pretty much the only transfer business we've done so far, other than I think Alan Campbell's getting linked with a move away now as well. Obviously, Nathan Asimwe's gone out on loan to Walsall. Let us know your thoughts on all of those things as well. You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can put a comment in the live chat here on YouTube. No highlights. The commentary failed by the sounds of it, so with no point putting that together, Tom. But yeah, 2-1 defeat in the end at Peterborough. Obviously, a championship side that we lost to on Tuesday night. But I don't know. I felt like it was a continuation of some of the performances we've seen over the last few weeks. Yeah, there's bits that can improve, certainly, but it just feels like at the moment that there has been a jolt in the right direction.
There's been a definite shift, and I think we said on the preview show last week that this was a good test against the sort of side we want to be in the next few years. Not obviously long term, but for the next few years, can we stabilise as a mid-table championship club, which is exactly where Preston are? And I thought we did. I thought we were probably the better side. Obviously, there were a couple of mistakes, particularly the first one for the goal. But other than that, I thought we did well. Obviously, Leeburn was out as well, and Gassan came in. I know I like Gassan, or I want him to do well, but on the pitch, that is a downgrade. So we didn't have the same level of attacking threat as we've had in recent weeks. But I felt like we went toe-to-toe to them, maybe, as I say, even edged it and were the better side. So I think in terms of on the pitch, that's all really positive. We all know the draw. The next game was winnable in that it was someone from our division, but it wasn't like it was one that got us that excited. So am I that disappointed to be out of the cup as well? Not particularly. It gives us a chance to concentrate on the league. And yeah, it's positive to see that there has been a shift in how we're playing, and I think Jones acknowledges that as well. And if we can continue the level of performance now, which is what we need to try and do, then we've got games coming up that are hopefully winnable. We've got, of course, some tough games as well, but yeah, it's just about trying to keep that momentum going now. And I think the cup has a chance of disrupting that. And I don't think it did on Tuesday night. I think, if anything, our momentum continued despite the fact we lost the game.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do wonder if, as you said about Gas coming in, I think if the game had gone ahead on Saturday, I imagine it would have been much more likely that Miles Lieburn would have started that game, because obviously we would have had that extra few days grace before we're going up to the New York Stadium on this Saturday, Mark. So maybe that was part of it. Obviously, the only other change was Mannion for Maynard Brewer, which was an interesting one. I mean, obviously the positive of the performance aside, and we will come to those again in a minute. Got to look at the goals we conceded, and I'd say an uncharacteristic error from Alex Mitchell. Although if he was ever to make an error, it would be a passing error, because that's obviously the bit of his game that he's probably not the best at, Mark. And that's what cost us. And it was annoying because it came at a time when, like I say, I thought we'd been on top in that first half.
Yeah, I feel slightly sorry for Mitchell, because I don't think it's not the first mistake he's made. It's the first mistake he's made, which we've been punished for. But he's almost out as a right back now, because Small's going so far forward, because we know what an attacking threat he is, and he's pushing up almost into the midfield, and Mitchell's coming across as that sided centre half, but he's not really a right back, and he tried to do the right thing, but I think in that stage, put it out, be safe, don't second guess yourself, and it was laid on a plate for their guy. Obviously, I'm not surprised Ash got a bit of a rest, and I think it only is to keep Mannion on his toes a bit. I don't think he'll be in there Saturday, so it was uncharacteristic of Mitchell. But I think his strengths, like you say, he's not the passer of that back three. He's the enforcer. He's the one who you want going and tangling with people and putting in some dirty tackles. I don't mean dirty, but one which crunch and your whole family feel it. So it's difficult. And as for Gas up front, I'm with Tom. I'm like, you want him to do well, because God bless him, he's a trier, but it's just not getting there. And you think to yourself, every time he gets a goal, you're thinking, okay, he's going to push on maybe for this, and it doesn't. And I was a bit surprised that he didn't have Godden start, because I just think Godden's tactical awareness, because Bolton did make some changes, and I think Godden's more a thinking footballer, and I think would work better up front. But it's a difficult one with Gas, because no one's going to take him off our hands, and we're just going to do him as a loss. And now we've got 5 strikers sitting there. I mean, it was a very attacking bench. It was nice to see them all there, but it's a tough one with Gas, because, like I say, you just do want him to do well. If he was just meandering around, you could give him much more grief. But he's not. He is trying, but he's just not good enough for us.
Yeah, Mike Salmon says, Gasman, he's not good enough. I've been patient with him, but he's just not showing enough quality. Godden brings quality in the final third, but he's not quick. Alex says, is it bad? I don't rate Godden at all. He feels like he doesn't run at all. I mean, he's not. To bring back to the man that he's going to be compared to, because that's who he replaced. He's not Alfie May in terms, I think, in terms of the way he buzzed around the pitch. But he's also not starting games at the moment since Miles come back in. One of the players who stood out for me on Tuesday, Tom, and has stood out for me for a while now. I think I text you guys before the goal. Tell you what, Thierry's actually put in 2 very good crosses already. Puts in a third cross for the goal. Obviously, Berry popping up. again, starting to pop up in areas that he had done at times but wasn't doing often enough. But I mean, Thierry, I'm going to keep banging this drum every week on the show. He's been an absolute revelation over the last few weeks.
That's exactly the word for it, yeah. And particularly with Ramsey coming back around the squad now. And we had this debate, I think that was last Thursday as well, about whether Ramsey gets back in the team over him, because, yeah, the improvement has been vast, obviously, on what we assume is his weaker side. And certainly you've been saying it for a couple of years now, that all he lacked was that end product, that ability to get crosses in. And as you say, the crossing recently has been far more improved. Going back to Gas, I know that family who are Ipswich fans say that's the sort of stuff he feeds off. And I think Cambridge fans have said the same, that that's what they want. So if Small can get that up, maybe there's more chance. The problem is Gas probably isn't going to get another starting chance in the league for some time now, hopefully, because that means Miles hasn't got injured. So I think the fact that he can do that, and that offers us something, as you say, whether that is towards one of our strikers, like a Leeburn, who's obviously tall, or potentially from set pieces, or whether it's for midfielders drifting in, as we've asked Doc and Berry to do. And as you say, Berry did do it on Tuesday night. It's just an option that we need. And I think that was the plan at the start of the season with the wing backs that we had there. I think Nathan Jones wants those wing backs to get forward and get balls into big strikers. He obviously played Gas a lot at the start of the season, and I think that was the intention there as well. So again, we talk about the tweaks he's made, and I do think there's been a tweak in style, particularly in getting the ball through the midfield. But in terms of the final third, I think largely he's still trying to do the same thing. And Thierry Small is obviously delivering on that, and long may it continue. If it doesn't, Ramsey's there to come back in, and that's not a bad backup, is it? But for the moment, I'm just delighted with what he's doing out there. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's not a bad backup, but I stand by some of the things we were saying earlier in the season, which is between Ramsey and Edwards, they don't attack that much. I think they are no way like what Thierry's bringing to the side, or as Jay's just pointed out, TC as well. It's weird with TC because he's not playing wide, but he's at his best when he's drifting wide at the moment, and he's a right nuisance. Thierry saying. Anthony, saying Thierry is playing so well. My Man United mate signed him on Football Manager. Well, that is that's a real honour. That is. Mike said, "I've been impressed with his ability to play both sides. It's going to be difficult for Ramsey to get back into the side, and I certainly feel like that's going to be the case. What we do have to obviously balance that up with is then Thierry Small seemed to be the man who lost a striker for the second one. I'm going to try and I can't say the geezer's name, but he's the one who scored twice." He was the same one that bit someone earlier on in the season as well, in case anyone forgot about that, when that Preston player got banned for biting someone. But yeah, Thierry probably did lose him for that one. And again, the timing of the slow start to the second half has ended up being the thing that's cost us their mark. We sort of played our way back into it. It weren't really till right at the end when we had that great chance with Anike's header. But as a whole, other than those two mistakes that's let us down, I mean, we've gone 5 changes, for Preston, but we've gone toe-to-toe, and that was a really encouraging display.
Oh, it was. I mean, you look at it as a performance overall, and say, you know what, we did hold our own. On another day, would we have got the rub of a green if we hadn't made those mistakes? Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think it came down to not scoring first, because we know we're invincible if we score first. But once you've let one in, I mean, it showed good character, and small raiding up that right wing. And because I don't know if you saw the clips of him. Guys going out for training, and Tanai Watson's out there as well. So we've now got an abundance of right backs. So unless he's going to be hoofed out, so it's hard because I like Ramsey, and it's one of those ones where you're thinking, oh, is it possible to shoehorn Small into midfield ahead of him to use his attacking on that side, because it is slightly different, and then not worry so much about the defending, but then who do you drop out of midfield? Because at the moment the midfield. It's a bit of a cliche. It's picking itself. No one's done enough for you to drop something out. I mean, games like this are quite handy to think yourself, if we do have an injury, can someone come in and do a job up front? I think, that just comes down to a matter of choice, who you like as a striker. I'm a great fan of Kanu. I like Godden. You're right. He's not an Alfie May. He's not an annoying pest, but he has got a football brain. He gets himself in the right positions. The problem we had at the start of the season, he was getting himself into good positions, and we were just going sideways and back. We weren't getting the ball to him fast enough. I think that's it. I mean, if you look at the tempo of our games now, it's gone up 10, 15% now with us on the ball. It's being much more positive, and it's showing, and it's worked out for us. So there's plenty of green shoots in that side. And like I say, is it a cup game? You don't actually get too much more money for the next round anyway. Would Wickham, fill the valley for a cup game? Probably not. We probably wouldn't get half of what we had for the league game. They'd be looking to get a bit of revenge for that. I think it's you'd feel slightly more aggrieved if there was a bigger carrot being dangled in front of you. So, if you'd got one of the decent Premiership sides or a bad Premiership side at home, you'd be more like, a bit annoyed. But with this, I'm thinking if there's no new injuries and, they've carried on, like you say, playing well, I think, don't be too upset about losing in a cup game.
As John says, Ramsey deserves to come back in. I've said it before, play small left back and Edwards left centre back, Gillespie not convincing. Stuart said I thought Edwards played well. His long throw is a big positive as well. And I'm not saying, I certainly don't think he's been playing badly. I think defensively he's very good. Even going forward, he's adding a bit more, but I still don't think him and Ramsey between them don't have that explosion running forward that Thierry does. Danny says Edwards showing the form that he showed early on in the season. Well, let's have a listen to Nathan's post-match reaction. The video's the software's playing up a bit today, so the video's going to look slightly different, but you're still going to hear from the Addicts boss. He spoke to BBC Radio London's Mark Taylor up at Deepdale.
Nathan, you must be pleased by the performance, just a shame about the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we give 2 poor goals away. For us, really poor goals. First one shouldn't have happened. It's an underhit back pass that's an error. It doesn't happen to us. Normally we're very good defensively, and then we didn't start the half well. Concede from a corner, don't deal with the first ball, don't win the header, don't deal with the first ball, give a corner away, and then don't deal with that. So I'm really frustrated with the goals. Performance-wise, thought we were excellent. I really did. Created better chances, created more chances, and really pleased with the performance. The keeper made some real good saves. And just testing ourselves against a really good championship side, and again I thought to say we held our own would have been understatement.
You certainly stayed in the cup tie, and I thought you showed great character in that first half to bounce back.
Well, we did. It was against a run of play. I mean, we had all the chances, all the creative. I think we had a little bit of possession, but we pressed them high. We won the ball back. We had chances. Their keeper made 2 or 3 saves. He had to. We were inches away from really taking the lead, Luke Berry and so on. And then he just came out of nowhere. The goal came out of nowhere. It was a big error. And then when we then gathered ourselves, we then came back into it and deservedly got the goal. And I thought we were more than worthy of going in at the break level. Then second half we wanted to kick on, but we didn't win the first header. We didn't deal with the long ball, and then we didn't deal with 2 set plays, and that's a frustrating thing, because those are things we normally do very, very well. But look, they showed great character, they showed quality, we created great chances. I mean, so their keepers made some wonderful saves, had to make some wonderful saves, and on another day the result would have been different.
Just how close were you to an equaliser from Chuck Saniki's header late on?
Yeah, it's a good save from the keeper, great ball in, good position from Chucks, and look, it's good. Again, with the greatest respect, I don't think either side is going to win the FA Cup, so it's a big sort of test for us tonight to see where we are and stuff. But look, that's the Championship level. I know the Championship very, very well. It's probably the league I know better than any other, and I know that we're not far off. What we have to do now is add consistent performances in the league, because we can't test ourselves against Championship side if we're not in it.
How well does that performance bode for the next few months? Yeah,
well, look, we're in really good form. We were 6 unbeaten coming in today, and it's taken a poor, taken us to switch off on 2 occasions to us to lose to a decent Championship side. So look, we're in good form. We've got people coming back. We've got almost a full squad now. Our right side has been decimated, but they both come back on Thursday. So look, we're in a much, much better place in terms of numbers, in terms of quality, in terms of options. And as I said, we've got a real tough sort of 23 games left to try and achieve what we really want to.
And a tough schedule these next 7 days. 2 more away games coming up.
Yeah, and look, it's the thing about the FA Cup and everything in terms of it's added an away game, but this, one of them's a rearranged game, so we've got back. Look, they're all tough. Whoever you play against is a tough game in League One. The Championship's exactly the same. In English football, there's no easy games. There's nowhere where you can go and think, okay, we can take our foot off the gas here. You've got to be at it, and we've got 2 big away games now, which we need to capitalise on.
Nathan, thanks very much and good
Cheers.
luck.
Thank you. Cheers.
Just one more, really, Nathan. I was going to say, your wingers were excellent today, and I mean, Small really terrorised down that side. How impressed were you with the wingers and how they attacked Preston, a Championship team? And what does it say about Campbell as well? What does it say about both of their attributes and futures going forward?
Oh, look, I think we've got a good squad. I think with the greatest respect, we haven't proved it the first half of the season, but I think we've got Championship level squad. Like, I really do. You look at our midfield and you look at their midfield, there's nothing in it. We've got 3 players in there. Connor Coventry's a Championship player. Docs has played most of his career. Luke Berry's playing in the Premier League last year. So we've got a Championship level squad. And then when you look, we add the youth and pace and power that we have in wide areas. We've got strikers, Chuck Saniki. We've got Miles Lieben, who didn't play tonight. We've got a lot of quality in the squad. So we know we can compete. And tonight we didn't come here and sit back and try to nick a point. We went after the Championship side, and there was no difference.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones speaking to BBC Radio London's Mark Taylor. As Lewis said in the chat, I'm getting PTSD from this journo. Is he the one who interviewed Henderson after we got pumped 6-0 at Huddersfield? Yeah, it is. Mark's been on the beat for a long time, covering us and other clubs. And he is a bit of a BBC Radio London legend. You may have seen a photo of him interviewing Gary Rowett with a broom during COVID. He taped his microphone onto a broom and held it. It's quite funny. But yeah, do we have a Championship level squad, Mark?
No. Next question. No. Yeah. I think from the first half of our season, there's no way you can claim that. It's a bit delusional, if you ask me. I think, okay, yeah, the last 6 games we've played and looked a lot better, but my God, we've seen some rubbish this season. And he wasn't claiming we had a Championship squad when we were being squidded by Leyton Orient in the Cup, or being stuffed at home, or done dry by Bristol Rovers down there. It's odd. I mean, look, we've got, yes, he's picked up players who played in the Premiership with Berry, but up until 10 games ago, I don't think anyone would have gone, oh yeah, he's a great Premiership player. And then Miles is now back and firing, which is good and looks fit on it. But he was relying too much on the same playbook for like the first half of his season, and it's weird how he can claim that. If we were top 2 or top 4 and there was and we were picking up wins all over the place, then I'd say, yeah, possibly we could, with a few tweaks, we could compete in the Championship. If by some miracle upon miracle we manage to get to 6th and we do well in a playoffs and we get to the final, we get to Wembley, is there anybody who watches us thinking that squad in the Championship would be looking like Southampton in the Premiership are now? Because we've got Small's great, Lloyd's great, we've been crying for a new keeper. Would Gillespie, Gillespie gets dog's abuse on here, and I don't think he's as bad as some centre halves I've seen us have. But midfield, Doc's just decided he's going to start playing. And on the wing, we've got TC, possibly Miles, yes. Chucks isn't going to do a season in the Championship, so it would need a major overhaul. So I think it's wrong for him to claim that he thinks that we've got a Championship style squad, because where are we, 14th for the moment?
11th. Yes, Spam says no as well. Says we're 4 players at least away from a Championship squad: goalkeeper, left-sided centre-back, a winger, and an attacking midfielder. Luke points out that he's glad we didn't sit back for that point against Preston in the FA Cup, as Nathan said. You know what he meant, but yeah, he did say that. It was quite funny when he said that. Right, let's talk transfers. So just the way I've cut the interviews, we're going to hear Nathan talk a little bit about transfers later on in the show as well when we preview Preston. But about an hour before we came on air, Tayo Eden has been let go to Peterborough. On it said undisclosed terms rather than an undisclosed fee, and then so I imagine that will mean that basically we've just been let off his contract, and he's been picked up by Peterborough. I think it's just for the rest, until the end of the season, which I'll just double check there. So it's probably free, but one of the millions of players we've signed over the last few years, Tom, that everyone, in and around the club is telling us he's done this, he's done that, he's going to be great, and then it turns out he wasn't all that, unfortunately, at all, and it didn't work for him here.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's just not worked. He came in with relatively high expectations as far as I was concerned. I think he'd been at Blackburn, hadn't he, at some point? Done okay, but yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest, in terms of what he offered, and the answer is sadly not a lot. But I think we've got to try and clear some of that out. I agree with Mark. We're not a championship squad yet. But as people are sort of saying in the chat, I don't think we're a million miles away. That starting 11 is good. I don't think that starting 11 is quite championship yet, but that starting 11 is good. But once you start to drop off from there is a lot of space that needs filling. And I think people like Eden, who were taking up space in the side, is probably, how we have to say it, they're probably not going to start unless a lot of people get injured. We needed to clear some space, and so hopefully this has done that. I mean, for him, hopefully he can pick his career back up. I've got nothing against him personally, but it just hasn't worked. And I don't know, the way that Nathan's talking and the fact that we haven't signed anyone yet, I wonder if they're hoping to get away with not making too much in the way of incomings in January. I think we need a couple. I know that January is not the best time to do business, but certainly if we do want to push for that 6th place, as Mark was saying, I do think we need some strengthening. But maybe it's a case of getting people out the door first. And if this is one step towards that, although we're getting towards the back end of the window already, then that's a good thing too. So, yeah, I'm sad it didn't work out, but yeah, I think it's the right move all around.
Yeah, we've been through too many players who've had his career path at Charlton over the last few years, unfortunately. But he, in a good way, appears to have been easier to get rid of than, say, Charlie Kirk, who hung around for way too long, or Scott Fraser, who probably could have gone a couple of windows before he actually did. So yeah, didn't work out. Luke says he's done well to get a move there, to be fair to him. Yeah, Peterborough doing worse than I'd realised. I knew they weren't having a great season. They're quite far behind us in the table, actually. They've had a real difficult season. Andrew saying, was he being played out of position? Was highly regarded by the Stacey West blog in Lincoln's near miss for promotion a few seasons ago. Well, maybe, like I say, maybe it didn't really work out because we tried him left-sided. We've tried him midfield as well, and I never really saw enough of him in either position to suggest that he could really sort of do it for us. Pointed out by Andrew here that obviously Terry Taylor wasn't in the squad again on Tuesday. Says if we get rid of Terry Taylor, you can guarantee that Coventry will get injured. Well, as Mike said, if we letting those players go, I mean, I imagine that there'll be an idea to try and get someone. Nathan's spoken about attacking sort of players. I think attacking midfielder maybe will be involved there, but we'll see as the window goes on. We've still got sort of half of it left to go to see if we can do any incoming business. Right, well, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about transfers later on in the show as well. But it's very briefly, just before we go into the second half of the show and look ahead to Rotherham, I just wanted to touch upon the women's team. I actually went to watch them play on Sunday away at Chelsea in the FA Cup. Chelsea, obviously, was it 5 times WSL champions in the last 5 seasons, and very kindly named pretty much their strongest side against us. So it's full of international players. Charlton, in the end, beaten by 4-0, but it was a reasonably impressive display from the women's team, considering they were playing literally one of the best teams in Europe, and to only get beat 4-0 was a bit of a feather in their cap. So it's time to reconcentrate on the league now. They're 5 points off top, and they're 8th. The top 8 are divided by 5 points. So there's still a chance for the women's team to try and get promoted in the second half of the season. Let's very briefly hear from Karen Hills, who I caught up with after that defeat at Chelsea.
Yeah, obviously disappointed not to go through to the next round, but what a team to obviously come up against. I thought we was excellent today. I'm so proud of my group of players. I thought they stuck together from minute 1 all the way to the very end. I thought in the opening 5 minutes, I think we got 3 entries and had a couple of shots on target, which was success for us, knowing the quality that this team have, and they didn't hold back with their starting lineup, so we knew we was up against it from the start. But it was a great challenge, and I thought we rose to the occasion, and I thought it was a respectable result for us.
Yeah, Sonia said in the build-up she was going to play her strongest side, and as you say, she certainly did. But that's, I guess, the sort of challenge that your players wanted to face today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there was no hiding today that you're playing against a team that's got world-class players in, and is a world-class team that haven't been beaten this season. So for me, it was an opportunity for our players to go out there, play with no pressure, enjoy the occasion, and back themselves, and they did that today, and I was so proud of them.
And the chance now to refocus on the league. Obviously, we know what the aims are for Charlton. Came so close, just 1 point off promotion last year. This is sort of the level that your team will aspire to be at if they can get that promotion this year.
Yeah, listen, like we've got half a season to play, and you've seen how tight the Championship is. Every game matters. There's 8 teams at the moment with between 5 points. You've got to be at the races every single game, and you've got to make sure that you try and execute it. But what that performance will do to us is give us the confidence to go into play a very different side next week. We've got to go up to Durham, so we're going to go and play on an AstroTurf against a team that's very experienced, who knows how to play in the Championship, who are doing very well. So we've just got to focus on ourselves, keep believing in what we're doing, and yeah, obviously the aim is to play in the WSL, and I thought today all these players did themselves great justice and did Charlton as a club, so we was really super pleased with everything we did today.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Well, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We're about to gear up for Saturday's trip up to Rotherham. Just before we do that, just want to flag up with everyone. You've got a chance at the moment to vote for the Charlton fans rep for the Charlton Advisory Board. Now, not that we're biased, but Lewis from this parish has put himself forward. So you've got the opportunity to vote for 2 people. Obviously, you guys would have known, anyone who watches the show will know about Lewis, but there's 5 really good candidates there as well. So Lewis, Kat's in there, Jade Hannon, Paddy Pammon, Vicky Saward, and and John Whitfield as well. Obviously, I don't want to colour the vote too much, but there's some really good candidates there. Some of whom who go home and away as well. And I know who I'd vote for if I could work out how to log into the system. But yes, obviously Lewis would like you guys to vote for him. There's some really good people on there. John goes to a lot of games and has been involved in a lot of campaigning stuff as well. Paddy seems like he knows his stuff. Jade obviously does a lot of stuff with the club as well. I don't know much about Vicky, but she's got a very good thing on the website as well if you want to read about her. So have a read through all of those. Have a vote for who you'd like to vote for. Right, let's turn our attention to Saturday's trip up to Rotherham. Delighted to say that Matt from New York Talk joins us now to talk about the Millers. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing, fellas?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, looking forward to heading back up to the New York Stadium on Saturday. Tell us a little bit about how Rotherham's season's gone so far.
Mixed. Very, very, very mixed. If we're having this conversation on Boxing Day, then we were 4 points off the relegation zone. Things were looking very, very bleak, having just lost at home to Wigan. But since then, I think we're 5 games unbeaten. Only conceded, I think, 2 goals in that time as well. Steve Evans has changed formation a little bit. Seems to have clicked. That's what Steve Evans does. He keeps changing things, keeps tweaking things, and eventually he finds something that works. And at the minute, he's put a few different players in a few different places, and it does seem to have clicked at the minute. But it's been a rough ride. Some really, really poor results, really, really, really poor performances. But we now seem to be steady, stable. I think we've had the same, other than the cup game. I think we've had the same lineup 4 games in a row, something like that. So there's a real bit of stability around the place, which we've been crying out for about 2 years, to be honest. But we feel like we're finally on the right path.
Hey Matt, I was looking at some of your stats just before we came on air, and I think you not exceed, the opposite. You way underperform your XG. So looking at the strikers you've got, the likes of Nombe, Wilkes, Clark Harris, or attacking players, that seems like a surprise. But is that, obviously the stats don't lie, but is that playing out in games? Are you finding that you are getting in good positions and just not taking your chances? And is that the reason that there's been a little wobble, do you think?
No, really. Those stats are surprised. Whenever I look at them, I think can't work out how the XG is so good. I think what happens with Steve Evans' teams is they get the ball forward quickly. So you end up with lots of crosses into the box. So the header inside the 6-yard box looks like a quite good chance, or actually it really isn't. So I think the stats look good from that point of view. We've lacked goals. Are a problem. Goals are a massive problem. I think the 5th or 6th lowest scorers in the entire league, or something like that. So they are a huge one. And with something like Johnson Clark Harris, that's a real surprise. Start of the season, you're kind of thinking, you put your hat on him, he might not do much else. Well, he definitely won't do much else, but he'll score goals, and that hasn't panned out either. Like in the last 4 or 5 games, we've stopped just pumping the ball in the box, so it kind of makes a bit more sense, really. But yeah, I say every time I see those XGs, I was like, we've been rubbish. I don't understand how I was so good, but maybe I'm wrong, and the stats are kind of playing out now that we're picking up these wins now. Maybe I'm wrong, but they are surprised to be honest.
Hey Matt, after obviously any team who gets relegated from the Championship is automatically one of the favourites for next season, and when the names were there, Birmingham, Wrexham, and Rotherham were right up there with being the favourites. Why do you think it took you so long at the beginning to sort of like start to click? Because it's not like Steve Evans lets people. I mean, he's probably loved by you guys. He's hated by everyone else, but he doesn't let his teams sort of like do that kind of thing. He's a real kind of like forceful manager. So why do you think it didn't click right in the beginning of the season?
I think it's a few things. I think he underestimated how rough last season was for the fans. And I think I don't think it helped himself. As a fan, we were just looking forward to winning some games after our brutal relegation was last year. And he spent all summer kind of talking up, I guarantee that we're going to be challenging for promotion this season. So our expectations are up. And then when we lose the first game and perform really badly, fans are almost against the team straight away. So I think Evans underestimated the kind of feeling towards how we expected things to go. But partly his own fault, how much he talked him up. But I think he underestimated that. It's also taken him far too long to work out how to play these players. For me, when we've had Steve Evans before, and what was good about Steve Evans is his teams are full of energy. The front two will always press if you play to or whatever. They'll always press. There'll be energy all over the pitch. And he went and signed Johnson Clark Harris. Oh, he's a goal scorer. He's brilliant at goal scoring. He's a wardrobe. You know what I mean? He can't move. So the signings he's made don't really make sense to how Steve Evans wants to play. And it's no coincidence that Clark Harris hasn't played for these last 4 games, and we've played significantly better. And that's a real question and a big criticism of Steve Evans. Why is it taking him till Christmas to realise that Johnson Clark and Jordan Hugill as well, who's been really, really poor? Why is it taking him so long to work out? I mean, we've all been crying out for this. I know what a good Steve Evans' team was 10 years ago. So why is he not? Because he's got Malik Wilkes and Sam Nombe and a few other attacker players. They have got that mobility we've been crying out for. I don't know whether he's stubborn or whatever. Well, he is stubborn. It's Steve Evans, but he's his own worst enemy, and he's put us in a really bad position in terms of we're so far off place. 10 points off place. That's miles away, really. And I know it can change quickly, but we've got a lot of work to do to be guaranteeing to be challenging for promotion, like he promised back in June or July, whatever it was. So it's sadly down to the manager, but he now seems to have got it right. Hopefully,
I can see some similarities there with us. To be fair, some of the things that have started going well for Charlton over the last few weeks were things that fans were calling for quite a while. So that's an interesting point. Two very stubborn managers, I think it's fair to say. I'm sure Charlton fans be interested to see how Dylan Phillips has been getting on this season.
Yeah, he's a really interesting one. So he started the season as number 1 and had a really tough time. We had Victor Johansson last year, who was a fan favourite and a Millers legend, and it's always tough following a fan favourite. And Dylan Phillips kind of caught the brunt of that. It wasn't great. Maybe it wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. So fans are on his back. He then got dropped for Cam Dawson, who wasn't very good. But then, to be fair to Dylan Phillips, he's got his chance again, and he's taken it with both hands. He's been really, really good since he came back. I think it's probably November time. He's kept quite a few clean sheets. Keepers are always a weird bunch. I think he needed confidence. And Steve Evans is one of those managers that likes to chop and change. Even his goalkeepers, it'll just chop and change. And I don't think that helps goalkeepers at all. And I think Dylan Phillips seems to be one of those that needs an arm around the shoulder to make sure he kind of feels loved and wanted. And by the fans as well. I think the fans have started to take to him a little bit. So he's just quietly solid. And you guys know he's not spectacular. His kicking's not very good and this, that, and the other. But he's just got into a rhythm of being quietly good. Defence in front of him is performing really, really well. And we're settled with him. He's not going to be. I don't think he's ever going to be a fan favourite, but I think we are content with him being our number 1 at the minute.
Yeah, and then just looking ahead to Saturday, then, I mean, you mentioned some of the strikers' names then, but overall, who are the players that will sort of stand out, do you think, this weekend up against us?
Yeah, so we've changed formation. We play currently 4-1-3-2. We've got Cam Humphreys. He's a sitting player. He was a centre-half, has been centre-half for his entire career. And Steve Evans had this brainwave to put him in midfield, and he's been an absolute revelation. He just sits in there, keeps the ball moving, and everything else. Over the last 3 or 4 games, he's just ran the show. So he's going to be an important player to kind of keep quiet. Keep Cam Humphreys quiet. I think he'll probably keep our new style pretty quiet. We've been playing with Sam Nombe and Malik Wilkes up top. There's not much physicality there, although they can win headers and things like that. They're not the most physical. What they both have is pace. They're really, really quick. They're both pretty good on the ball as well. And they will press. The press comes if you try to play it out from the back. That's potentially a problem. I don't think Nathan Jones will do that too much, but that is a problem for Bolton last week, for example. They really, really struggled because we just pressed them to death. It was a real step forward. Joe Powell's another one. He kind of plays off the left hand side of the 3 behind the strikers. Fantastic left foot. If you give him half a yard, he'll put a really, really good ball into the box. And there's just obviously down to the strikers to put that forward. This new system has allowed quite a lot of players to kind of express themselves a little bit better. The back 4 are solid, as solid as they've been for many years for us. This team is now efficient, which it hasn't been. But the front 2 of Nombe and Wilkes, if you give them a sniff and give them space to run into as well from an attacking perspective, they will cause problems. And Nombe scored last week, I think. So he's one of those that gets 1, he gets 5 in 6. So he's probably due a couple more goals, Nombe, in the next few games. Lovely
stuff. Well, Malik Wilkes has enjoyed playing against us over the years as well, I can tell you that. Matt, right, cheers for that. I'll let you go. I know you've got your stream coming up at 8 o'clock, so if any Charlton fans want to look at a Rotherham preview of the game, New York Talk coming up live at 8 o'clock, have a look on their socials for that. Matt, cheers for your time this evening.
Cheers, fellas. Good luck for the season.
There we go. That's Matt from the New York Talk show. Great to have him on to look ahead to the game. Let's have a look ahead to the game from an Addicts point of view. Nathan Jones sat down for his press conference earlier on today.
I was talking about a heavy load you mentioned there on players over Christmas period. Well, hasn't got any easier. We've got 6 games in 3 weeks. How is the squad? We've seen recently Kane training, Tenay back, Zach Mitchell back, so that's got to help in the coming month.
Absolutely, we're in a better place, in terms of that, getting people back. We said we're going to streamline the squad, but make sure that we have the quality and the numbers and the fitness levels, the recovery and everything to handle this period. And look, we're looking forward to this period because we've had a few games called off. The Crawley game was really frustrating. The Preston game was really frustrating because it meant it just delayed that game, which meant our preparation for this has had to be slightly different. But now we're looking forward to being game because you can't do that every week. But for the next 3 weeks, we're looking forward to that challenge and the rhythm, hopefully, that we can gain.
As I said before, Tuesday night was really a continuation of the form we've been on, and obviously we're back to league action with 2 tough trips coming up, 2 tough long distance away trips. Rotherham up first, just below us in the table, and a decent run of form themselves. What do you expect up there?
The toughest of games, Rotherham are always a really competitive side at this level. The manager's always really competitive at this level. So we are under no illusions what kind of test we're going to have. It'd be very difficult. 2 sides in good form, and they've had a couple of good wins in this week. Obviously Saturday and Tuesday in the cup. So it'll be a real tough game. We know that, but we are prepared for that, and we are looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was a tight one at the Valley, 1-1 draw. So something similar, you'd think.
Yeah. Look, we have no idea how it's going to go, but we're in a better place now than we were. We feel in terms of the squad, but it's always the toughest of tests when you come up against Rotherham United.
Just finally, we're in the transfer window. Of course, all transfer windows tend to be run the same way. Most stuff happens towards the end. January, particularly, is always fairly strange. Do you expect the same sort of activity? Most of it towards the end of the window.
Well, we don't. If historically, myself, I'm usually, I try to be with my recruitment department and with the club really well organised and so that we do our business early, so that we're not scrambling around. Sometimes it's a bit of an anticlimax because we're not scrambling around and we're not coming up on Sky or late on at 11 o'clock. We've got one over the line because we're usually very organised. This window's a little bit more difficult in terms of finding players that will add significantly to what we have, and that's what we have to do. We're in a real good place squad wise. We said we're going to streamline because we need now to get it down to those players who I feel that we can move forward with. So we want to streamline it. We've managed to do that a little bit already, and then when we have people coming in, it is people that have to be different or to add to our 11, not the squad. We're not in any interest to extend the squad. What we want to do is add real competition, real quality to the 11, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time.
There we go. That's Nathan looking ahead to the Rotherham game, and as I promised, a bit more transfer chat on the end of that as well, Tom. Let's talk the game itself first. A couple of people have pointed out that we don't tend to do well against Steve Evans sides. Andrew says, I can't remember the last time we beat a Steve Evans team. James says, we will roll over. We always do against the Steve Evans side. So I looked this up before we played Rotherham at home, and we've only beaten them, a Steve Evans side, once in the league ever. And that was when we were already relegated from the Championship. We went and won away at Leeds on the last day of the season, so it was pretty pointless. Paul's pointed. I think Paul's had a look on transfer market. So apparently we've won 3 games overall against him. So I'm guessing there's a couple of cup games in there. Or he's given the link. That was pointless for me bringing that up on screen. But what is it about Steve Evans that we can't hack? Is he like the Millwall of managers?
He's a big geezer, isn't he? Big geezer bullying the officials or whatever it was Bowyer said in one of my favourite post matches of all time. But it's that, isn't it? Maybe he gets in your head. Well, he definitely does. We've seen that with plenty of managers, and maybe as a club, every club has their sort of bogeyman, and he's I imagine he's one for a lot of clubs. As Matt said, you know what you expect from a Steve Evans side, and maybe they've drifted a little bit away from that recently. But if they're capable of doing that again now, then we know what sort of a game we're going to have. It's going to be tough, and we're going to have to try and dig in. And we need the players to be able to do that. We need to try and play our football where we can, but largely we have to just try and combat what they're good at. And if we can do that, then they're not a good side. As Matt said, they've struggled. Okay, they're in a better run now, but they don't score a lot of goals. We still have to try and be favourite. And if Steve Evans wasn't the manager, we'd be talking about the game completely differently.
I was just searching back through my old tweets for the name Steve Evans because I was trying to remember what he called Adam Matthews once. So during the COVID games, obviously we could hear him quite a lot. So I'll just look at. I heard him saying something else to the ref as well. But I'll clean this up a bit. But basically, at one point, he just shouted at Adam Matthews and called him a prick. So maybe we'll get more of that on Saturday. Mark, in terms of us, I mean, John's confident that we're going to go up there and beat them. We have got momentum now, and even if it's not a win at Preston and it wasn't a win against Reading, the two performances that suggested we're moving more in the right direction than any of those wins at the start of the season did, other than maybe Bolton, which has been quite interesting over the last few weeks, is that the actual style that has evolved over the season that Nathan Jones said it would finally has, and it's taken its time and it's given us a mountain to climb. Let's not get carried away and say we're going to waltz into the playoffs now, but we have to at least be playing well to have any chance of the second half of the season being interesting. And we got to start Saturday. Let's just say we can't lose this game because that lets Rotherham jump up onto the same points as us, and we do not have any wriggle room this season.
No, it's a funny one because I think at the moment the team's picking itself, because they're going to say, who would you bring in? Would you change? The team's picking itself, and you've got to go with that. And I think Miles up front alongside TC, and it's funny because I was thinking if you were to at the start, you're thinking, talking about player of the year, and I'm leaping far ahead. Normally there's sort of like one or two names, but after the last 6-7 games, there's probably 6-7 names I could give you because say, hey, that's a potential player of the year, which is a really good sign. And it's a good sign there's consistency coming into the squad, consistency coming into the team, consistency coming into the players. And it'll probably finish, it's going to be 2-2. It's one of those ones. And I don't think we particularly look at him as a bogey manager because I don't believe that kind of thing. I think it's each on the day we know we're good enough to turn them over. We also know that we've got people who can make a mistake. So if everyone's turning up and everyone's fired for it, and we don't start slowly, because I think that was the key, and that was the key against Preston. In the second half, we came out and we were still in the dressing room, finishing off our tea and biscuits, and they're celebrating scoring. And he gets them fired up. And remember, sort of like, if someone looks into the stats, Nathan's probably got that over other teams as well. We've looked at it from our perspective. We know we don't like playing Steve Evans. If someone could be bothered, normally the kind of thing Joe does, is look at the stats and see how many times has Nathan beaten a Steve Evans team, not Charlton. So, stats can turn around. I think if we start well and we're doing what we're good at, and like I say, we showed at Preston that we are a good side. But it's that consistency, and that's what we're nailing on now. Like I said, they're unbeaten, so we've been going well. It's nailed on for a draw, so just hope we score first.
So I just realised I was muted. So Nathan Jones and Steve Evans have a bit of history as well. There was definitely one game where there was something that happened between them. I think when Steve Evans was at Mansfield, but then Nathan was asked about him before the last time we played him, and he was really complimentary. It was a bit boring, really. I wanted some of that fire in the belly. A lot of fire in one of those bellies, of course. Rostos says, to be fair, the way we're playing, I can see a 2-0 to us. Feel very confident after the last 5 games. Really positive. Hoofball. Ed's saying if Small offers the same service he had at Preston for Leeburn, I feel confident. And he certainly will. And that's part of why I think the second time I've already said it this show, but he's been so transformational to the way we've been playing over the last few weeks. Thierry Small, it's been a lovely surprise. James on the midfield, so certainly a part of the pitch that has improved, but he says I still think Berry and Doc need to step up a little bit. They are improving, but they need to be 9 out of 10 for us to win. I think Doc's being more involved than he had been. Berry still a bit hot and cold, but he has at times this season popped up in the right place at the right time, as we saw on Tuesday night, Tom. And if those two are playing well, like we saw at Northampton, where I think everyone was invited to play well, to be fair, but if they do, then that's when we can be at our best, because that gives us another element to be dangerous. You know, we've got the width now in Thierry Small, but we need to be able to create chances like that as well. And when those two are on it, then we've got that chance. Again, a bit more consistency will be nice, as James says.
Definitely. And I think, to kind of follow on from James's point, I think it's still the weakest part of our starting 11, but it has improved. It has improved massively. Now, whether that's that the players themselves have improved, or it goes back to the debate we were having a lot during the early part of the season, is it that we're actually using them now? Because I did think Doc was putting himself about a lot during the early parts. It's just the ball was never anywhere near him. And that's either because Doc was in the wrong place, or it's because it was going over his head. And I could never decide which of the two it was. But to be fair to them, as you say, there's been a lot more consistency in there now. They are showing more attacking threat, is maybe a little bit too far, but more attacking intent. They're getting into the final parts of the pitch a lot more than they were. As you say, we know Berry's good for a goal. We saw him do it. We've seen him do it throughout the season, just not consistently. So there hasn't been a particular part of the season he's dropped off, but he just does it maybe one game in every three, and we need to see that a bit more. Doc obviously did it for those couple of goals. I think he scored 2, didn't he, for that in that away game? But we need to see that more consistently as well. So we know that the goals are there, and I think the confidence in Coventry behind them and the back three behind him means that they've got that in them now. But also, we don't really know what Jones is asking of them. If he is asking them to go and get the ball out wide, then they're probably doing their role. But then I'd still love to see them around the box like Berry was at the weekend, because if it doesn't hit Miles, at least somebody else is there to pick up the scraps. So, yeah, everything is just gelling a little bit more. The style of play is a little bit better. And as James says on his point, they are improving. They're definitely improving. As I say, slightly slower than the rest of the side, but improvement is improvement. And that's all we can ask for from these players at the moment.
Yeah, Rustos pointing out as well how big Chuck's coming off the bench has been for us, or will be for us going forward. Obviously came so close to that equaliser with a good header from another Thierry Small cross, I like to point out, on Tuesday night. The goalkeeper debate, Mark, I think you sort of mentioned it earlier. Is it a debate, or is it Ashley comes straight back in because he's been playing well enough in the league?
Yeah, Ash will come straight back in unless he's carrying a knock, which could, be the only reason he thought would give Mannion a bit of a run out. So I'd like to say, I don't think it picks itself. And I mean, Aniki scored that lovely equaliser against him at the start of the season. Absolutely beautiful. So he might be looking to come on with 15, 20 minutes to go and have another crack at that. So it's a tough one, but apart from Northampton, they're all tough. So I think we've got the firepower on the bench, so we can have a crack. And unfortunately, I think he'll probably leave the gas man at home. So whether we put 3 strikers on the bench, it gives us options, because Kanu's a willing runner. Godden, we know what he can do, and Aniki, he used to be our cheat code, and maybe he can get back to doing that.
Yeah, so John and James both say Ashley to start in goal over the weekend. So, I mean, it's the midst of a very busy run for us, Tom. We're back up north on Tuesday night, up at Bolton as well. So fatigue and all that is probably going to start to play a part. I mean, we are pleased that basically we currently have effectively a full squad to pick from, other than Kane Ramsey, who's probably like a couple of weeks away. Tanae Watson is out and about, but we don't know exactly if he's fit enough to be involved yet. But other than that, we're pretty much where we need to be. So there will maybe be a little bit of tinkering that he'll want to do over the next couple of games as well.
I think he's going to have to. Like people are saying, I'd be surprised if that's this weekend, because it's the first league game for a little while since Reading, I think, isn't it? And obviously Crawley before that was called off as well. So I think you go with your strongest team for this first game of the run, but then Bolton, almost certainly he'll have to change it. And then we've got, I think, Blackpool away, haven't we, before the end of the month, or maybe that's just in the start of February as well. So that's 3 long trips, which does have an effect on players and their conditioning as well. But yeah, as Bowyer always used to say, Saturday, Tuesday for a few weeks now. So he's going to have to utilise the squad. And that's the only slight concern, is when he has rotated more, that's when we've come slightly unstuck. But we haven't had to rotate a lot in this period. So we don't know now that we've slightly changed the style of play. Actually, maybe that won't have so much of an effect. Obviously, we had the chat about Godden earlier in the evening about what he offers. Obviously, we've talked about Gas as well. But Kanu obviously came back and, hasn't maybe hit the heights, if you want, of last season yet. But he's an option. Chucks, I can't imagine ever starting, but he's an option off the bench. So there is options to rotate, and I'm sure he will. And as I say, maybe in the next 2 weeks, we do get a little bit more in strength in depth as well. I think if we were 2-3 points off the playoffs, we'd probably have done a little bit more by now. Whereas maybe they're slightly hedging their bets now because we're a little bit further off. But as we're all saying, I think the squad probably is capable of getting to that 6th place if we can keep that momentum up. And I think that maybe does need a little bit of strengthening. So, yeah, it's going to potentially be a defining part of the season now. If we can stay unbeaten to sort of mid-Feb, that will put us in a very, very good spot. But if we go on a little bad run, then that might kind of kill the season for us. So yeah, next 6 weeks is pretty big.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, there's so little wriggle room. So yeah, it has to be big if we want to do anything this season. But like I say, I think it's a mountain to climb. Right, let's leave it there. We've run out of time on this week's big match preview. Good to be back after obviously missing Sunday's show because of the postponement up at Preston. Thanks for everyone who's joined us live on the YouTube chat or listened via the podcast afterwards. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks to Matt from New York Talk earlier, and to Tom and to Mark. Great to speak to the pair of you as always.
Cheers,
mate.
So don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the Rotherham game. Hopefully we'll be talking about an away win. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Meadows. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again on Sunday.